Chair, you are now live.
All righty. The meeting will now come to order. Welcome to the March 28, 2022 City of Asheville Board of Adjustments meeting. My name is Pratik Bhakta and I am chair of this board. The Board of Adjustments is a quasi-judicial body that is governed by the North Carolina General Statutes and the city's Unified Development Ordinance. We are authorized to hear requests for variances from the city's Unified Development Ordinance, also referred to as the UDO, appeals from the final determinations made by city officials charged with enforcement of the city's UDO, requests for reasonable accommodations, and other requests as may be provided in the city's ordinances. All committee members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through committee meetings online and a bit differently. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on our Board of Adjustments page. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone and participate. Dial 855-925-2801 and when prompted, enter code 9255. Again, I'll restate this. For anyone watching or listening, the public may participate by dialing 855-925-2801 and when prompted, enter code 9255. The automated system will ask you to press *3 to be heard. And for those of you out there with us today, welcome. I will now go through and introduce all the committee members who are participating virtually. Please make sure to mute and unmute your microphone when you're speaking and not speaking. And when you have a question, just usually on this, we interrupt. So please remember to mute your phone after that when done speaking. Committee members, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Suzanne Godsey.
Good afternoon.
Carter Webb.
Hey, everybody.
David Angelis.
Good afternoon.
Tina White. Seems we're missing Tina White. Ricky?
That's correct.
Okay. Also with us today is our city attorney, Janice Ashley. I'd also ask that anyone speaking today, including staff, to state their names and titles for the record before speaking and be sworn in if you haven't done so at the beginning. We have a couple things on our agenda. However, the minutes have been postponed to the next board meeting as we do not have them ready yet for review. So let's go over the general introduction to quasi-judicial decisions. We will now begin the evidentiary hearings for the cases listed on the agenda. In hearing cases, the board conducts a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing. That means it is like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this board must make its decision. These rules are different from other types of land use decisions like rezoning cases, which are legislative in nature. This board's decisions are constrained by the standards in the city's ordinance and the facts presented at the hearing. The board hears and considers evidence presented at the hearing and applies the standards set forth in the state law and the city's ordinance. The board must base its decision upon competent material and substantial evidence presented at the hearing. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinions. Participation is limited. This meeting is open to the public. Everyone is welcome to watch. Parties have rights to participate fully. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Witnesses may testify as to facts to which they are competent to testify, so long as those facts relate to the legal standards. In addition, lay or non-expert witness testimony is limited to facts, not opinions. For certain topics, this board needs to hear opinions testimony from expert witnesses. These topics include projections about impact on property values and projections about impacts on traffic safety. For variance requests, a 4/5 vote of the board is required to grant the variance. For all of the hearings and matters, including the adoption of the minutes, the decisions will be made by a simple majority vote of the board. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. At this time, we will administer the oath for all individuals who intend to provide witness testimony. Okay, do you all solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
That's one.
Do you have the applicant on, Chair? Just a procedural question. Are you swearing in the applicant? Because I don't see anybody else.
I don't see anybody else either.
I seen Mr. Mansell on the listing.
I do not see our fifth member, nor do I see Mansell.
Ben, if you're on, you just need to unmute. You're showing is muted, I see. You can use Control D to unmute.
Yes, I see Mr. Mansell.
And Chair, when Mr. Mansell does get on, you just want to make it clear that we only have 4 members, so it will require a unanimous vote, and then it would be their decision whether that, as long as they understand that.
Yes. Mr. Mansell?
I'm going to try to give him a call.
Okay.
Chair, he's going to try to have the meeting system calling. And he should be with us just a minute. You're muted, Pratik.
Have we tried to reach out to Tina as well?
I just spoke to Tina about 13 minutes ago, and she said she was in the process of joining.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
First off, we do have a alternate, our 5th member of the board, who is not joined yet, who may join. However, the rules governing approval of the variance requires that you need 4 out of the 5 members for variance approval. If we only have 4, you can choose to continue with 4, but you would need all 4 members of a vote to for the variance to be granted. In the event that Tina White is not able to join, there would be only 4 people. You have the option to continue it to next month or proceed today.
I guess we should proceed.
Okay. Also, I will need to swear you in.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear to or affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board on this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Ricky, I'm going to turn it over. Okay, well, first let me go over the agenda items today. There's only one on the agenda. The owners, Benjamin and Tammy Mansell, are requesting a variance on the side setback requirements in section 7-14-1, A1 setback and yard requirements, and size limitation requirements in section 7-14-1, B4, accessory structure footprint of the UDO. And then now I'm going to turn it over to Ricky Hurley.
Thank you, Chair. And just as a way to let you know, I did just speak to our 5th member, and she is, I just resent her the link, and so she's going to try to rejoin with us in just a moment. Janice, would you like me to give her just another minute or two to see if she can hear the whole presentation?
That's preferable if you can just wait a few more minutes so that she can base her decision on all the evidence. Thank you.
All right, we'll just give her just another minute. All right, board. It appears that Miss White just able to join us. Thank you, Tina. I know you're facing some difficulties with the system, but you're not the only one today as well. So we greatly appreciate you filling in when we need another alternate today. You and David both. So thank you. So we just are here in this first case. So we were talking about 46 Baird Street. It's a setback and structure footprint variance request. So there's technically 3. In meeting with Mr. Mansell, they have a couple things that are going on in the field. One, the first thing is we have approximately 1 acre lot that has multiple detached accessory structures on the property. The one that's most acute is the most recently constructed accessory structure behind the home. It's approximately 4.2 feet from the western property line. And that is the first row here listed, mostly due to that building, a 4-foot side setback request. So it would be a 2-foot reduction in that particular building. Additionally, lots of this size, when they're over 1 acre but less than 3, the maximum footprint, not square footage, but footprint of coverage for any individual building is 1,200 square feet. The metal portion of the structure is 1,200 square feet, but he also added an additional 250 square foot lean-to area for a total of 1,450 square foot footprint. This is the only building that does exceed the maximum individual structure footprint. And then finally, due to the number of accessory structures, and you'll see further down in this presentation and evidence presented, is that this lot size is also capped at 1,600 square foot footprint for all accessory structures. Based on my calculation of what's existing and what he has indicated in the packet as to possibly be removed, would result in a final total of 2,434 square feet remaining. So when I say footprint, I think everybody does understand that's the actual footprint of ground coverage. You can technically have a 800 square foot garage. That's the footprint. And then you could have a second floor in the garage, so for 1,600 square feet of area of, not coverage, but actual area in the envelope of the building. But the footprint is the actual, horizontal space occupied by the structure. So you could have a 2-story garage. It's just be 800 square foot footprint limit. So just make sure if anybody has any questions about that, we're just talking about footprints. Next slide, please. Okay, so as you see, the lot here is in the very center of the screen. It's RS8. It is not steep slope, even though it is above the 2220 elevation contour for a portion of the property. It's because the average natural slope is less than 15%. So as you look to the right of the screen, we're kind of going up the side of Town Mountain, and the left I kind of refer to as the valley floor below 2220. Charlotte Street is that commercial corridor on the left side of the screen, the CB1, CB2. Next slide, please. Here's a more zoomed in aerial photo of from 2019. You see the house is toward the southern half of the property. You can't make out on here, but in that northern half of the property, in that wooded area, you kind of see there's like a little bit of stream in that area. There's small, I don't know if it's wet weather or if it's intermittent, but I do know there was water in it when I was out doing a site visit with the applicant, although we've had a lot of recent rain, but I believe he can confirm it. I believe it is a stream. Next slide, please. Applicant did provide a survey of the property. We appreciate that. It helps the board with making an actual determination of what they're not guessing at. And so our subject building is this one kind of the top center that's kind of large. Tyler, is there any way to zoom in on that building particularly? I'm sorry, it may not be. I think that says, if you can't, that's fine. I think it says 4.2. You can pull up the slide somewhere else. Let me just get down here, Tyler. You can. I'll look. It may be easier for me to look up. Yeah. So the east end of the building is 4.6 feet, 4.5 feet. And the west, I'll say north end, excuse myself, I'm referring right, left. The right-hand side you hear is 4.5, 4.6, and the left is 4.2. All right, next slide, please, Tyler. So that just clarifies our setback. This is the existing principal dwelling as viewed from Baird Street. And these are all photos provided by our applicant. Next slide. This is the subject 1,200 square foot building that we mentioned earlier as being over the maximum footprint for any individual building. The lean-to is that area to the far right of the picture. Next slide. This is that area that's talking about looking from the north across the small creek, and in the top center is our subject building of the 1,450 square foot in the top center here. Next, okay. This is a Kwanzaa Hut that he mentions in his packet that's immediately south of the metal 1,200 square foot building along the property line. This is another original garage. This was not near any property line. It's compliant as far as placement. It's just adds to the total square footage, and it is proposed to remain. Indicates it was constructed in 1905. Next slide. The rear carport again, not near any setbacks, but does count toward accessory structure footprint, 378 square feet, and proposed to be retained. There's a tent garage, 200 square feet that he has indicated to be removed. Next slide, please. And another front carport that he has indicated also to be removed of 400 square feet. This is to the west of the house you see here on the right hand. And then there's a garden shed of 80 square feet he also indicates to be removed. I believe that's the last of our exhibits. Is that correct, Tyler? Yeah.
That's correct.
So as far as the presentation else goes, just note that the 1,200 square foot building that was recently constructed was done without permits. We received a phone call from someone concerned about the placement being near the property line. That's how we came to discover the violation. Of course, as soon as we got the applicant received the notice of violation at the end of last year, he did contact me very quickly to ask about how to remedy the situation. And unfortunately, due to obviously the setback, the total number of square footage footprint, and the total size, we were not able to proceed forward with zoning permitting that, and that's why we're here today. And with that, is there any questions for me before I turn it over to the applicant to?
Ricky, I have some questions. Can you, I know this will be a little bit difficult, but can you toggle between the photos and the survey to show us where the two carports are, and then the other two small sheds? So I see the home, and the existing carport is to the page north, I guess. And then that small structure that looks like it's on the property line, also along that shared property line. Is that the old historic structure?
No. I think on that new survey, can you hear me?
Yes.
So the old garage and the rear carport are not shown, nor is the house. I got that survey for the purpose of this building and seeing exactly where it was. So it was the west side, but the old garage is pretty much in the middle of the property. It's far from lines. But it's not.
What is OC and what is BC labeled on this drawing?
I believe that's a G.
Yeah, that's the middle one's the original carport, Suzanne, 1905. Okay. And the BC is the back carport of 378 square feet.
Okay. And so which one is that? Is that the red roofed carport? Isn't there a red roof one? And then there's the other one. That
Yeah.
one.
The back carport's the red roof one. So on the way of orientation, starting the far right, the largest shed,
Mhm.
That large store building will remain. I believe in front of that's the Kwanzaa Hut area.
Put your cursor over that if you don't mind, Ricky, when you're talking about. Yeah. So okay. So that's the one that's gonna. Which is the.
That's where-
Okay. So those two are gonna remain.
And then there's a garden shed that's very small square.
Okay.
And then the front carport, those two are going away.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Is there any additional questions for staff?
Is the larger building, is it heated? Is it conditioned space?
No, it's just a metal building garage, concrete floor, no heat or anything.
Did it require a footing?
It was a concrete slab poured within the building, and it will require a footing, and so that's what I have to do with the building permitting process.
Those are all the questions I have right now. Thanks.
All right, Ben. If there's no other questions from the board members, then Ben, would you like to go over anything else that I may have missed in your overview of the staff report?
No.
Okay. Chair, we have two callers on the line, and
Okay, so the petitioner does not want to add any further information other than the staff report?
If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hurley.
all right, for anyone that's in the speaker queue, to enter the speaker queue, you would have to press *3 to enter the speaker queue. And I think both of them would like to speak, so I'm going to move to the very first person that has their hand raised. All right, caller, just give it a minute. You should be live in just a moment to speak.
Can you hear me there?
Yes.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is Richard Kerber. We live on the boundary of this property.
Okay, before you continue, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this board on this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, proceed.
So we live on the western border of right immediately where the question of the building and the setback are, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to speak. As far as just I didn't realize there would be an opportunity to speak. That particular structure that got added, the garage. We heard over a period of time, we were on vacation, we heard over a period of time from neighbors and whatever that there had been a couple of weeks of trees going down. People were kind of talking about it, disturbed, and it just kind of went on. And I suppose our own alarm went up when we looked out one day, and over the fence between our properties, you could now see people walking that were as high as the fence looking down into our bedroom. I mean, into our bathroom, which had always been a kind of a private place. So that was rather alarming. And then, pardon me? So we were trying to kind of adjust to that, and then this whole lean-to got built onto it. It became huge and unsightly and quite close. And anyone who walks in our yard goes, "What in the hell? What happened there?" You know, and it's very. I think I sent some pictures on forward. It's also of a structure that reflects light. So when you're out there, besides towering above, being way above the fence line and being within the setback, it's of a structure that you can see, and it's very obtrusive, and it reflects light like it's, you know, you parts of the day you feel like you just as soon put sunglasses on and looking at it. So we were very surprised at the addition of that, and it does feel like the way that it sits there now, it feels like it doesn't feel like it works at all for the way the zoning's supposed to work. And it also reduces our the value of our property. Looking out into that, it's very it's not subtle in the least, and it also changes our view completely. That's our primary view shed in our living space, is outside the back of our house, and it kind of feels like the whole setup was alarming, but that lean-to became like totally like that really just does not work. Or in the application that, well, if the lean-to weren't there, then that whole end had been built up to be as high as the fence. So the notion that cars would be parked there, whether the lean-to was there or not, seems like the cars would still be on the footprint that's been created, you know, and built up for the actual garage that also isn't set back far enough. So we're you know, and our neighbors, people that also join look and go, wow, I couldn't handle that. So I'm in, you know, I've consulted with attorneys just recently since getting a letter from the board here, and wanted to just find out to see what your findings were before we'd make any decisions. But it's notable. If Mr. Mansell hasn't come down and looked at it from this end to see what the impact of that has been on our property, I would invite him to do that. And there are photographs or send photographs, but it's pretty. And there was never any conversation or any inclusion or any kind of inquiry. So it does feel like we feel pretty put on by this, especially the lean-to. The whole building, there might be some way to be able to, it seems kind of silly to move something 2 feet to do it all over again, but it also seems silly for it to have all happened without any kind of permit or you know, with some awareness that you're violating the setback. That's probably all I have to say right now. Thank you. If I have any questions, I'm happy to, or send any other photographs.
Any questions for the caller? Okay. Ricky, you want to move to the next caller?
Well, I don't know. Let me ask the attorney something here. Janice, what do we do? I don't want to disconnect the call before if Mr. Mansell has questions for the board or to answer the questions that may have been posed by the caller before we move on, or how I just want to make sure I get this right before I move on past this caller.
Well, Mr. Mansell would have the opportunity to ask questions if he has questions of the caller. And you could do that now, or you could wait for both or both comments and then let Mr. Mansell respond if you have questions.
Okay.
You could do either, but the caller should stay on and listen to the rest of this.
Sure. All right, Mr. Mansell, do you have any questions or anything to say back before we move on past this caller? Because I do have one other caller on the queue. I don't think they're wishing to speak, but otherwise I can end the speaking session and you can just respond to the board themselves.
I don't know what to say. I mean,
That's fine. That caller, you're welcome to, I'm going to move you from the speaker queue, but you're welcome to, if you have additional information, you're welcome to hit again *3, move back to the speaking queue. All right, I have one other caller listening in. If you wish to speak as well, you'll need to hit *3 to enter the queue. Otherwise, that would be all of our callers, Chair. Okay, just a minute. And it looks like they're not moving into the queue, so I'll leave this to the board to deliberate or ask additional questions of myself or the applicant.
Okay, that concludes our public comments. I'm going to open it up to the board for discussion. Getting your thoughts, questions. Go ahead, Suzanne.
I do have some questions for the applicant and trying to read through your application to understand what exactly you're stating is your hardship. So if you could just for the board, let us know what your hardship is. Initially on your application, there are some responses that don't seem to be incredibly serious in nature. Stating a problem being a first world problem isn't exactly going to resonate with me.
I don't have it. I mean, my hardship, you wouldn't understand. I guess I just wanted to go and work on my cars in my retirement and park a car under a cover. And I wouldn't expect you to understand that as a hardship. But, you know, that's all I can say.
So what the board is looking for is hard, and I'm sure you understand this as a real estate agent, is a hardship related to the land or your property. And we're trying to understand what that is. And I see that in your application, you are willing to give up some of the structures that you have on your property. You are at an advantage of a lot of people in your neighborhood in that you do have over an acre. So that does afford you to have even more square footage for accessory structures per Article 14, as I'm sure you're intimately familiar with now.
No, I am now, but I was not aware that there was a maximum of accessory structures or that a carport even counted as a structure, but I am now.
So the question being is, this board is tasked with 4 questions that we need to have a firm grasp on, and all of them have to be addressed and proven. And that is,
okay,
you know, unnecessary hardship would result from a strict application of the ordinance. The hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. The hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner, and the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance. Those all 4 have to be met for this board to be granted variance. And so the board is looking for the applicant, the petitioner, to prove these points as it relates to the variance request. And I believe, Suzanne, that's what you're getting at, and I understand that as well. Is there, we see the written responses, but is there something that would factually state that instead of just opinions.
It's the hardship. It says to prove a hardship that the property couldn't be used for anything else or not have any value. Well, no. I mean, obviously the property has value and could be used for. The irony about the UDO that I've discovered is that my yard is zoned for the use of other people. Like, I just thought that was kind of a mistake in the UDO, and that I could build houses with garages and garage apartments, but I can't have more than 1,600 square feet of accessory structure. But that the property is huge and it allows it could be developed, but I don't want to develop it. And it's just sort of ironic that it's zoned for development, but not for my use. I can't say that it has no value, and it's not just, I'm not proposing, I'm completely subjected to the board's wishes. So what we're here is to decide, what I'm going to remove, and that's up to you, and I have to abide by that.
Okay. What I particularly, I could see unnecessary hardship 1 and 2, but the number 3 is just sticking out to me, and that is the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or property owner. We understand the unknowingly guilty part, but it says in your resume, your answers, that you've been a realtor in Asheville for the past 30 years. And therefore, I would assume as a layman, as a realtor would know different zoning and variances regarding as such with your experience of 30 years. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, I deal with zoning and regularly, and I'm familiar with setbacks, and but the total accessory structure part of it I'd never run into before, and nor did I know that a tent or a carport counted as a structure.
Were permits granted when you constructed those?
Well, no. I mean, I have there's a 100-year-old garage, a used carport, a Kwanzaa Hut that is like fiberglass that I bought at a yard sale, a tent that I bought at Northern Tool. No, I didn't get permits for those things. I didn't get a permit for this big shed either, and I should have. So I was wrong. I'm guilty. That's why we're here.
Any further questions, comments for the petitioner? Go ahead, Ms. Godsey.
I have a question for Ricky. So in terms of the 2 structures, the 2 carports, let's say, are those currently in violation because there's no building permit associated with them?
Several of the structures have clearly been there a while that I can tell. I will say this: state law, and Janice can correct me, but basically state law limits the time in which a local jurisdiction or local government can discover and cite a land use violation or nonconformity. So basically it's 5 years if it can be visible. I just say succinctly 5 years if visible from a right of way by any local government official, and 7 years in any other case. So, there is kind of a time limit. So if something's back in the woods, we've really only got 7 years to discover it. So I hope I'm quoting that, kind of paraphrasing it correctly, Janice, but there is a time limit. I don't know when all those carports have went out there.
Well, those two carports are new-ish. I mean, they may be older than 5 years, but they're definitely visible from the right of way.
Yeah,
I mean, they're carports.
They're carport, yeah. So I haven't dug all the way in on each individual. It's hard to see on some of the county aerials, especially Google aerials, because usually there's either leaf cover and sometimes the color of the roof doesn't make it very apparent. And Google doesn't drive all these streets all the time. We use
I was looking and I've only found like 2012.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't drive all the back streets. Some places they'll drive 8 or 10 times, like Hendersonville Road, but some streets in town they've driven once.
Yeah.
And so I'd say it's the 1,400 square foot building is what really took something and took it well over. Not only it pushed us probably what was already above the limit, but made it much worse. And then obviously we added two other issues, which is the setback violation of the 4 feet, 4.2, 4.6. And that's a lot more of an affected property line. You know, that one building is so much more than the 180 square foot garden shed that was probably 4 or 6 feet on one corner. And then the Kwanzaa Hut, which was a little bit closer, like 3.6, but it was also of a limited length. So anyway, this one larger building got us on taking the top end and going much higher, and then also creating a much longer setback violation. I honestly didn't hear, I'm sorry to say this, I didn't hear all of the neighbors' concerns. I picked up that maybe they were most concerned about the setback issue. I don't know if that was their biggest concern. And I know that Mr. Mansell has got to work still, regardless. If the board was to find in favor of somehow, he still needs to secure building permits. Outside of that, then the building has to be removed. I just say that. Short of that, it has to be removed.
So a couple of other questions. Have you confirmed the height of the structure?
I haven't. I've been out to the site. 25 feet is the height limit for detached accessory structures. It wasn't 25 feet tall.
Okay.
It wasn't that. It's probably closer to 14 or even 16.
Okay.
But it's definitely not over 25.
Okay. I just want to make sure as we're looking at everything. So let me make sure I'm clear. Even removing all of the structures that the applicant is stating he would remove, we would still need, as a board, need to grant the variance for the 832 square feet that he's over his allowable square footage.
That is correct. That 2,434 that I mentioned, that is the square footage. And I may have wrong. That was the square footprint that would remain after removing what he indicated in the application voluntarily.
Okay. So there's even more out there. He's just saying, I'll remove this, and this, and then I still need this variance. And
yes.
And that structure that's to remain, that's over the square footage that's allowed, is also within the setback. And that's the second variance. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to make sure.
It does. It does build upon itself as we discovered.
Okay.
And Ricky, if the board were to grant a variance, how much time frame would the petitioner have to remove said structures that they have volunteered to remove?
Well, we would probably work with him to try to get those done expeditiously. I probably at the same time, I think some of the structures seem more simplistic, like the tent and maybe the garden shed. He might be able to get those out quicker. I don't want to, volunteer something, but we would clearly, I don't know. I mean, if the board wants to specify a time, I guess, Janice, they could specify a time to have those removed, couldn't they, as conditioning the variance if granted? They could condition.
You could put a condition. You could discuss whether additional things need to be removed or portions of, that hasn't been discussed either. But
yeah. So y'all could say 6 months or something, for example, to have those removed regardless of what happens.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Yeah. So we could. So we're basically it's kind of a two-parter. I mean, can we not? grant the variance for the building square footage, but also say that the building needs to come into compliance with the setback.
Correct.
So would he be doing 2 votes, or how would that be worded if someone was to make a motion?
I think Janice, I won't put words in her mouth. I think they would have to vote. They could vote it all together, or they could break them out 3 ways, 3 votes, couldn't they, Janice, to vote for the setback?
You should probably vote on each requested variance. I'm not quite clear how you could approve the building and the setback. It's the building that we're in question. The 1,450 square foot building is 2 feet into the setback, right?
Correct.
So I don't, if you're talking about keeping that building, then I don't see how you could meet one and not meet the other. But
That was going to be my question. That seems like if one doesn't go through, then the other can't go through. Am I missing that?
Well, I was just thinking in terms of buildability. This is a non-air conditioned structure. This, I don't know the construction methods used, but it is slab on grade. You could feasibly extend the slab so many feet into the interior of the property and then shift everything over. We don't know from building inspectors whether or not, they don't have to tear the building down anyway, but at least he would have the square footage variance approved, that if he was to be able to rebuild it inside of the setback, he wouldn't have to come back and ask for a larger structure.
Yeah. That's, I guess, to say of the 3 requests, the one that's the most critical, I'll say, is the last one, the total square foot footprint, because if that one's not deviated, then it's all moot. Yes,
and he'll have to remove everything?
Correct. He would have to remove the 1,450 square foot building in its entirety because it's over.
Well, I'm just struggling with it because, Janice, you can weigh in on this, but our hands are pretty tied with these 4 requirements, right?
well, as the chair said, they need to prove that they've met all of them.
Right.
And it is an after the fact, construction. So that you're considering a variance after something's already built. So, but to the degree that Chair Godsey was stating, you can set conditions. So, and that hasn't been discussed with the applicant, but I think you were saying perhaps if it could be moved back, you would just say the board wanted to approve that the setback, it would have to have the condition that the building gets moved, or as I said, there's other conditions, maybe parts of that building could be removed. I'm not sure.
But it seems to me the applicant should be asking for this as opposed to us providing that option for him.
Right. Usually it's the applicant, but if you're considering it and you want to, if you have some ideas, you think these could be met, I'm stating that you could we could grant the variance with the condition that, and then you have to talk to the applicant about whether that condition.
With all due respect to the applicant, I'm just not getting much evidence of meeting the 4 that we're supposed to meet.
Yeah, those are tough. I don't see how you could ever meet those for any variance, really.
But that's what we're tasked to do. We're not tasked to determine whether the UDO is correct or
not. Right. I understand. Yeah, given the task that you were provided with, I don't see how you can grant a variance. So the question is, I don't want to violate a setback. I'll be happy to make everything comply to any setback and remove whatever I need to remove.
Chair, I know we've probably closed, but I know at one point we had the previous speaker was wanting to speak again. They may have dropped off. Let me see if they're calling back in. They got disconnected, but they had raised their hand again. Yeah, they're back.
Okay, David.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, so I'm looking at the photo with the Kwanzaa Hut on it, and I'm wondering if the petitioner is considering, possibly removing that as well to simplify this.
Yeah, I have, I mean, the building I like the most is my new metal shed, and that's the most important to me. But then I have to oblige. I'm obligated to do what you tell me to. So I was offering the things that were really easy to offer, but you can take more. I have no choice.
Okay. Ricky, you want to, I'll open up public comment again.
Okay, I'm gonna bring the caller back in. All right, you've just been caller and you'll be back in the queue to speak.
Is this a returning caller?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One thing that seems like I'm not hearing very discussed is the distinction between the metal building, which is also a violation, setback violation, but the lean-to on our property it faces, it just towers over our property, is an independent structure from that garage, and is probably for us by far the most egregious representation of the violation of the setback and the whole building style construction of what it is. I don't know if you did get a chance to look at the photograph, the photographs that I'd sent in to you, but I think that's, I'm not hearing any discussion about that as a particular piece of it, nor the build up, like if the garage were to be able to move to conform with the setback, that lean-to is still excess square footage and it's in violation, but it's also built up. So as was said, if somehow that came off, then there would still be cars sitting up on the asphalt up there above the fence line, which was all added to be able to create the garage. So I'm just making my point again in that behalf.
All right. Thank you, caller.
And you might want to clarify for the record for the caller, your photos were shown. The board did view those. Ricky put them up on.
Yes. For clarification, the pictures were of the metal shed, correct?
Correct. That was the other side, his side of the fence, I believe.
Okay.
Viewed from the west.
Okay. All right, I'm going to close public comments again, and I'm looking for a motion from the board to approve or deny each variance in its individual state, starting with the setback. Any motion? The 6 foot setback, 6 foot side setback, 4 foot side is the request. That would be a 2 feet or 33% reduction. We have no motion. Let's do it.
I was pulling it up so I could read what it was saying.
Well, we could do this.
apologize.
We can do this for the purpose of clarity. If you remember, Paul, motion to approve the 6 foot side setback to a 4 foot side setback. That would be the motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion.
So Suzanne, from your perspective, what you were saying is that, I'm trying to get a better understanding of all this. You know more about this stuff than I do. So you're saying that if we do approve the building square footage, that he could come back and do that, but the side setback.
Yeah, what I
Okay.
was saying was that there is an opportunity to separate out the variances,
Yeah.
to say that if we felt as though he had a hardship with building square footage, we could at least we could request that or deny the variance for the 4-foot setback.
But grant the variance for the other.
Feasibly, if we felt like he met the 4 standards.
I mean, this is it has to be a unanimous decision. I was hoping that
No.
the chair wasn't calling me, right?
No, it has to be
Oh,
4
there's
fifths.
only 4 of us, right?
There's 5.
Oh,
No,
there's
Tina
5.
is on.
There's 5.
Oh, okay. And I don't see her anywhere. Okay.
And can I just clarify the motion? The motion is to approve the variance to reduce it to 4 feet. That's the motion right now?
For the purpose of clarity, instead of having a double negative to say deny the variance.
Yeah, the way we state it, Janice, is what the request is. It doesn't indicate how people are going to vote one way or the other. If that makes sense. So
No,
So if we,
that doesn't
so-
make sense. So you normally have to have a motion. Either you're doing a motion to deny, and then you would be, if you vote in approving, it is just, you always make it
The
clear,
denial's
we're
approved.
approving a motion to deny.
Correct.
Or
Correct.
the initial motion is a motion to approve the request. And
if
then
it's denied, then it serves the same thing. So
yeah. So I'm sorry. Could you one more time say what, Chair, you brought the motion? It was a motion to.
Yeah, for the purposes of clarity, it's a motion as set forth to approve the variance of the applicant. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to vote for it or against it.
Okay.
So if I motion to deny, then everybody has to say yay. If I motion to approve, then people can say yay or nay.
But you did a motion to approve, and then Chair Gotze, you approved.
I seconded the motion.
Oh, you
She didn't-
seconded.
she didn't
And
vote.
you haven't voted yet.
No,
I'm
we haven't.
sorry.
We're
I'm so
discussing
sorry.
it.
voted, but if we vote yes, then that means we're approving the variance.
Correct.
So any further discussion on the setback? None? Okay, I'll take it to a vote. Suzanne Gotze,
No.
Carter Webb,
No.
Tina White,
No.
sorry. Okay, David,
No.
Pratik Bhakta is a no. Motion fails. That variance has been denied.
Yeah, I agree. I would have voted no.
There's 2 more motions, and that is the 1,200 square foot max individual structure. The request is for 250 square feet or 20.8% increase of the variance. Do I have a motion?
I want to make sure this is correct. So this is just for the structure itself. Is that right, Ricky?
Correct. The second variance is for an individual building footprint to exceed the 1,200 square foot maximum as proposed or cited now at 1,450 square feet as it currently sits.
And how big is is it called lean-to? What is that?
That's 250 square feet
Okay.
of the building.
Yeah.
That in
But
of
the
itself,
lean-to's not, if the lean-to's not there, then it satisfies this.
correct. If it
Okay.
was absent the lean-to, then that building would comply in and of itself.
Got it.
So basically, because the side setback has been reduced, the applicant can theoretically move it over and still be granted a variance and keep a 1,450 square foot building if this board approves the motion. If they don't, then the individual would have to resort to 1,200 square feet max and meet the side setback as well.
Repeat what you just said, Chair.
Okay.
Sorry, I got the last part. The first part I didn't follow for some reason.
Okay,
I'm a little
so
slow
since
this week.
the setback has been denied, the applicant can theoretically move, as Suzanne, I believe, pointed out, right, Suzanne?
Mhm.
Move the building away from the side setback so that they would meet the 6-foot side setback standard. And if this motion is granted, they would be able to retain the 1,450 square feet. Otherwise, they would have to move it back and also reduce the the square footage to 1,200 to meet the UDO requirements, and also have to do away with the other accessory structures.
And is this thing movable?
Well,
That's what
anything's
I don't know.
movable. I mean, we don't know enough information about the construction of the building, so we don't know. I did want to make one point though. If you get down to the third variance, Ricky, again, help me. Stringing together numbers after lunch is never a good idea for me. So, if he removes the structures what structures are leaving and what structures are staying in that third variance? Not to confuse things, but
Yeah, let me go back to the staff report real quick. But let me get back over here real quick.
And just pause there for 1 sec. I'm gonna do something real quick. Give me 1 sec, okay?
Okay, I'll just wait and speak when you come back. We'll just take a 2-minute break here, y'all. Tyler, while we're waiting, will you go ahead and bring up the photos again from the presentation so we can walk through those and just have them back on the screen?
I'm sorry about that. I hate making people wait, but didn't have a choice.
That's quite fine. Okay. So let me do this. Okay. Suzanne, we'll start back. So this is the main house. Obviously, that's the principal dwelling. And then we're back to our 1,450 square foot footprint, the single structure with the blue, what appears to be the blue garage structure. The metal structure is the 1,200 square foot portion. And then on the right-hand side of the screen is the 250 square foot lean-to. That is what puts it over the maximum individual footprints. This one is the new one. The Kwanzaa Hut, I believe he's identified as retaining it, and it was marked as, he said fiberglass. This 1905 original garage was, let me just say how big it is, Suzanne. It is approximately 264 square feet and 2 remain. The rear carport of 378 square feet, that is 2 remain. And then we have, the tent garage identified to be removed as 200. The front carport of 400 square feet to be removed, or offered to be removed, I should say. And then the 80 square foot garden shed that we seen that was right on the property line as being offered to be removed. And so with my staff report, the total maximum square foot footprint to remain with the new one was 2,434 square feet. That's after you removed the rear, removed the front carport, removed the tent garage, and the 80 square feet Sears garden shed. You still have 2,434 square feet, which is 832 square feet over the maximum footprint for this parcel. You're muted, Suzanne, unless you're not asking me something.
Sorry. And the hut is going to be removed?
No, the Kwanzaa Hut was not identified as being removed. You can clarify that with the applicant, but I did not read that as being identified. Though he seemed to have indicated maybe willing to. I don't want to put that in Mr. Mansell's mouth.
I guess, that could be the next one on the chopping block. I don't know. I mean, or the old garage, I hate to tear that down.
If the applicant was to remove all structures on his property, with the exception of this new structure that's not permitted in the setback, he's only asking for a 200 and something square foot exceeding the allowable square footage.
Yes, correct. For only one item enumerated, that would be the individual structure at that point.
Okay.
Which would still need to be brought into compliance because of the 2-foot setback requested.
Right.
Correct. You just denied that variance.
So we have 2 more to vote on, right?
Yes. So for the purpose of clarity, I'm going to motion for the approval of the 250 square foot variance request for the 1,200 square foot max individual structure. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Sec. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. We have a second. Any further discussions?
So just for clarity, if we
Just
say
for clarity,
yes, then we're approving the variance.
Correct.
If we say no, then we're not approving the variance.
Okay. We'll go to reverse this time. Tina White,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Suzanne Gotzi,
Yes.
Carter Webb,
No.
It's a no for me. Motion fails 3-2.
So the variance is denied, correct?
And for the last remaining of everything combined, it's a 1,600 square foot max for all accessory structures. The request is for 2,434 square feet. And that would be 832 square feet or 52% of the increase. Do I have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to allow 2,434 square feet or an 832 square foot, 52% increase for all accessory structures.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Do I have a
second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll take it to a vote. Carter?
No.
Tina?
Yes.
David?
No.
Suzanne?
No.
And a no from me. Motion fails 1-4.
Thank you, board. So if I heard all that correctly, all three individual items of the variance request were denied.
That is correct.
Thank you for your hearing today in service. That is the only item I had for the agenda today, unless the board has any other items to discuss.
No, if there's no objections, we will adjourn. Any objections?
Nope.
No. All right. Thank you, board.
Thank you. Y'all have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
Bye, Janice.